I'm Selina here from Weaving Words with Selina, and I'm a fiction book coach, a developmental editor and a writer from empoweredwords.com.au. And this is my Substack podcast. I'm still learning the ropes of it, so I'm putting my Substack onto my podcast and giving it a go. So welcome and thanks for joining me. My podcast or my post today is called Unburnt and the Tower Tarot Card. And actually I'm going to start with the Tower card. So it's about self-publishing and how the tarot card, the Tower tarot card, can help writers with writing conflict in their stories. So the Tower card and how it helps us to write character conflicts. Normally, when I pull the tarot card, and I'll put it up here, this is from DJ Conway and Lisa Hunt. It's the Tower card with a long tower that's made of stone in it, and two dragons that are wrapped around it, and basically their world is falling apart. So normally when I pull this Tower card, it comes with a warning that the rug may be about to be ripped out from under my feet, and life may be about to take a turn or a sudden turn that I wasn't expecting. In fact, for a month before I found out that my most recent job was going to be made redundant, and that was in 2024, I kept pulling the tarot card every time I did myself a personal reading, and I was like wondering, what is it that's on the horizon? And then bam, one day I'm sitting in a meeting and my job is made redundant. But the truth is, I actually already knew it was coming. I didn't really want to face it, and the tarot card was telling me that this was something I had to be aware of because it was out of my control. So the question is, what does the tarot card have to do with writing, the Tower? Anything at all? Well, actually, it's got a lot to do with creative writing in particular. So the Tower card is a really big, disruptive, karmic energy in the card, and it can represent a major upheaval in our characters' lives. And let's be honest, that's a good thing, because it brings conflict into the character's life and into their world. It can mean inner conflict for them and external conflict for them. And they will be forced to respond to something that cannot be controlled in their world. And that is just juicy, creative conflict for you and your characters and your story. So I've put a photo of the Tower card by DJ Conway and Lisa Hunt in the Substack post. So please take a moment to really look at that card before I get into a little bit more of what this is really representing to me today. And trust yourself too, because we each bring our own wisdom to the tarot and to creative writing, and you know your story the best, and I in no way will this override any of your own creative wisdom. So just consider what is on the card, have a look at it, look at the Tower and look at the way that the lightning has struck the Tower, and the way that things are crumbling around these two dragons. And then let's have a think about it. So the two dragons are wrapped around this crumbling tower that has been struck by lightning, and their mouths are open wide and they're spewing flames everywhere. So typically in the tarot Tower card, the individual is falling from a great height, and really it's not much they can do but go with it, because circumstances are out of their control. So these two dragons are falling from a place of comfort down to the ground, and they're going down to what I would term an unfamiliar place, where they are forced to consider maybe new perspectives and even live a different way of life. Now, when it comes to writing your characters, we want to have them go through really difficult experiences so that they can learn to handle it, and we want to see how they handle it. So if your characters are not struggling with something, if they aren't taking action, and if they aren't making decisions and then struggling with the consequences of those decisions, then they are probably too passive in the story. And that means, I'm really sorry to say it, they'll come across as boring. And we don't want that, because it means that the readers will put your story down and they'll go and do something else that's far more interesting instead. We need to keep their attention on the story, and the way to do that is to bring conflict to the character and to the world of the story. And it's fascinating. We love drama as humans. We love to be involved in it, which is why television is so engaging, and often social media too, because there's a lot of drama there. So in the Tower tarot card, it's your friend when it comes to writing fiction. So again, just take a moment to have a look at that card and consider how this tower energy, this destruction and recreation of the character's life and experiences in their story, might actually be showing up in your story. Consider, are your characters too comfortable in their story world? And what beliefs or ways of thinking do they need to have challenged in the story so that they can become who they need to be in order to achieve their story goals? There's a lot of questions in one question, but think about what it is that they want and what's stopping them from getting it. And sometimes the conflict that they have comes from outside of them, so it's an external force, but sometimes they're creating the conflict on the inside and they're bringing it to the story, and they may not even be ready or willing to accept that they are part of the problem, and that's part of their learning along the way. So even though the Tower card is suggesting an external force is coming against them, they could actually be having an internally triggered catalyst that then they may actually perceive as being something outside of themselves has caused this, and they will then need to learn and accept their part in the whole situation unfolding, for example. So consider, do your characters need to let go of outdated ideas, any outdated approaches or outdated beliefs? And this has got a lot to do with misbeliefs in characters. When they have a belief that they have formed through a traumatic experience, and then they go on to believe everyone and everything is a certain way because they look through that lens when they're interacting in their stories, that can be a belief that actually holds them back from getting what they want in the story. So consider the Tower card and how it can play a role, that energy can play a role in your story on bringing more conflict to your characters, but also the conflict that they bring themselves through their misbelief, and them learning to overcome their misbelief, learning to reorient that mindset so that they become who they're meant to be in their story. So also consider if they do need to let go of any outdated ideas, approaches, or beliefs, how does this affect their family, their work, and their friendships? And the reason I'm asking this is because when one person changes, it naturally has an effect on others, and it can really lead to some really juicy conflicts. And especially if you're brainstorming or you've getting that saggy middle of your story, it's a really good idea to consider conflict. Are the characters going through enough pain and upheaval and are they overcoming it? Are they trying and then failing? Are they trying and then succeeding, but then also something still goes wrong? Because this is pushing the story forward. So as writers, we're able to create scenarios that become the catalyst for change in our characters' lives. So you need to think about, are you creating scenarios that are outside of the character that are affecting them? But also, how is that affecting them on the inside? What is making your character work against the obstacles that they are facing in order to get what they want in the story? And the other thing that I see often in stories is we don't want to be mean to our characters, so we make it really easy for them to get out of difficult situations. Or, the main protagonist might be faced with a very difficult situation and the stakes are high, and then suddenly their friend comes in and saves them. Well, that means that they're not being active in their own scene and they're not driving the story forward. Their friend is, and that kind of like steals the scene from the protagonist. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about conflict and story moving forward with story structure and conflict. I may have said that already. Anyway, so if it is too easy for them, and if you are making it a little bit too comfortable, and you're saying, yes, that's me, then it's time to rip the rug out from under your character's feet and be meaner to them. Yes, go on. You can do it. Be meaner to your characters. It is where story lives. As human beings, I don't know about you, but I'm pretty conflict adverse. I don't want to be rocking the boat and be in conflict all the time. But characters, I want to do that, but it does take some time and it does take some adjusting to realize that you are, for me, I found it really hard to be not mean to my characters at the start. But once I learned that the characters need to drive the story forward by going through hardship and pain because they come out having learned something, and that's exciting and interesting to read, it made it easier for me to be meaner to my characters. So I really do hope that you will be meaner to your characters and make them work for their story goals. So, for example, if something's happened to your protagonist in the story and it's out of their control, think about how are they trying to control what is uncontrollable? And this might manifest in ways of emotional eating or going and shopping when they can't afford it. Like what things do they do in order to try to control what is not controllable in their lives? And it can also, thinking about this can really help with the inciting incident, because when something's out of their control, whether they've had a hand in it or it's an external one, they have to still respond to it. And it throws them off their original path. And the characters then realise that they have no choice but to respond to the situation. And then they have to do everything in order to try and fix what they've created, or the inciting incident, to get back to that normal, comfortable state. So, for example, they may have a situation that's kicked the story off, their lives have changed, they have to respond to it, they do everything the wrong way, and this is really important, doing everything the wrong way to try and fix it, only making things worse. And again, if it does make it better, something else goes wrong, because that's the way that the story claws its way forward towards the climax. And eventually they realise that maybe, just maybe, or maybe another character tells them that they are part of the problem, and they need to make a deeper internal change in order for them to get what they want in their story. I hope that makes sense. Well, I think there's a really great movie that demonstrates this extremely well. So if you haven't watched The Breakup that has Jennifer Aniston and Vince Vaughn in it, I highly recommend that you do so. Why? Because Vince's character goes through the tower energy in that story. He does everything the wrong way until eventually he begins to realise the truth about his own actions and how they are affecting the situation with with Jennifer Aniston, and how it is putting distance between himself and what he truly wants in when it comes to love. And it's a really great example of a side characters also telling him, you're making this mistake, and him not believing it and going back and still making that mistake. So if you want to really solidify this idea, I really recommend watching The Breakup. So again, if you want to explore your characters and their goals, their motivations and their conflicts, and you just need a bit of help, and you're really interested in tarot, for example, I do tarot readings for clients to help them with their characters, to get their goals, motivations and conflicts, and to think about the story arc. And you can contact me via the empoweredwords.com.au website to make an inquiry, and we can set up a time to do that. And of course, being a fiction book coach, if you need support writing your short story, your novella or your novel, I'm here to help. And again, it's just contact me via the empoweredwords.com.au website's probably the best, because you can give me some specific information on your story, and that would be really great. Otherwise, you could probably DM me through the Substack page. Now on to something else. This is about me. So I'm so stoked to share with you that I have finally fully self-published my very first short paranormal horror story. Yes, it's called Unburnt, and you can find it on Amazon. That's the only platform I've put it on at the moment. It's an ebook, and it's under SM Shapland, if you're interested in checking it out. So I'm really lucky to have had a few people buy it and a few people who have reviewed it, and I'm so grateful for everyone who has been supportive of me and giving me reviews. It is really important. All writers know that reviews help other writers and other readers find our stories. So they're vitally important for an author's brand and book sales, and authors have got to eat. So it really helps with sales, and that's very much appreciated. And of course, if our stories are the very best that we can make them, and hopefully we get a bit of word of mouth as well, and they'll fall into the Kindle or into the physical hands via a paper book of our ideal readers. And it'll all be thanks to things like those reviews and marketing and connecting with community and getting that kind of support. So in my Substack, I've placed an image of my short story Unburnt, so that you can see it. The cover, I think, is amazing. I got it from Louisa West at Covered Up Book Cover Design. It was a pre-made cover, but of course when I saw it, I just had one of those moments where I just knew that it was the right cover for my little paranormal horror story, and so I purchased it. And in my previous post, I wrote about the publishing process behind the scenes of getting this little story on Amazon, because it was my first experience of self-publishing. And I've just got to say, as a side note, Unburnt is a short horror story with very strong paranormal elements, but it's not slasher or that kind of horror. It's paranormal horror. I wrote it based on a spooky experience I had in Ireland in 2018 in a hotel there. Although the story is a lot of fiction, there is a lot of sense of that creepy feeling that I felt when there was a feeling of a presence in the room with me. Now, you may or may not believe that, and that's okay with me, because this is my experience and your experience is yours, but this story came out of that. So anyway, in the Amazon background of my KDP page, it turned out that there was a glitch and my story got stuck between publishing and going live on the platform, which is kind of funny because it's almost like that soul being stuck between the living and the dead, if that makes sense, like the living and the passing over to wherever or whatever we may or may not go to in the end. Anyway, I waited days and days for it to tick over, and I just couldn't wait any longer. My patience is pretty good, but I just could not keep waiting any longer. So I found a way to contact Amazon, and they were really, really good. They were so good at looking at the issue for me. Within about half an hour, my story went from being stuck in some weird limbo land in publishing and became live on the platform. And it was so exciting for me to see my little short story finally out in the world with my name on the cover. Truth is, I've written in the shadows for years, and I'm a pretty harsh taskmaster for myself. I'm far more critical on my own writing than I ever am on other people, although I do provide honest feedback. But after so much time learning to rewrite and developing my ability to cope with feedback and building my feedback muscles, I finally felt ready to take the plunge into publishing my story. And in doing so, I learned just how lucky I really am to have such amazingly strong networks and a community of writer friends and my family who read and support me. Everyone I know has been so generous and been so kind and supportive to me, and I just want to say a big heartfelt thank you to you. So this has been one of the best things about writing stories and books for me. It's community, friendship, having writing buddies and cheering each other on, caring for one another beyond the words is an incredibly important part of a writer's life. Connection with one another and being able to hold space for one another as we go through the ups and downs of writing fiction and publishing it, and possibly the rejection and the difficulty when you do put something out there and not everybody likes it, or it bombs out. It's really hard, and sometimes nothing about writing is super easy as far as I'm concerned, but it's something that you can always get better at. You can always learn more. You can always love more, and if you've got perseverance, good things happen. I really believe that. So have faith in yourself, and I just want to say thank you again to everybody who supported me. So thank you for sharing my little story, those who've done that. Thank you for reading my little story. I'm super grateful. And again, thank you very much to everyone who has reviewed my story. That's really, really so important. I've waffled on enough about that, so it's enough about me, and I want to move on to some other exciting news. Again, in my last post, I talked about the Bushland Castle Productions Otherworldly Emergence novella series, which is a call out. So it's a call out for writers to pitch a story that is centered in our world, or at least connected to our world, where a character has an emergence into the world. So it could be a vampire, or a wolf, a werewolf, or something that deals with that otherworldly sense of emerging into the world. It could be fairies, it could be anything, and it can be any kind of genre, although it can have romantic elements. Apparently it's not a romance specific story if possible. But again, if you have that, I would suggest just pitching it and having a chat with the group there. So the closing date has been extended. It was early July, and now it's been extended to the 27th of July 2025, and I'm recording this on the 15th of July. So if you're keen to pitch an idea and you believe you can deliver a novella that aligns with their theme, I would just get in now, because this is time sensitive, so please don't wait. I will put a link to the Bushland Castle Productions Otherworldly Emergence website in my Substack, so please hit that and go like that. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed my first video podcast and audio podcast. I really appreciate you taking the time. I know we're all time poor, and there's lots of competing demands on our time and attention. So thank you. I appreciate you. And until next time, happy fiction writing. This is Selina from empoweredwords.com.au, and we are weaving words into stories.